Section 5, Singing Handle, NEMA Survey and Pei Chen Experiments. In our conference material, we promised not just papers, but workshops, discussions, demonstrations, live music, and experiments. We had all of those except for experiments, so hence this part of my talk. The starting point for the experiment was not how do singers sing, or how should they sing. It is quite simply, what do listeners want to hear? So we decided on experiment to discover their preferences. In fact, there were two related experiments. First, I organised a survey for NEMA. The main aim was to find out what members and fans thought about NEMA, early music fora, and the early music scene generally. But with a conference in mind, I included a question about vocal preferences. Respondents were asked to select which one out of 3 vocal styles they preferred for arias in Handel's operas and oratorios. The question included descriptions of each style, plus example singers in both classical and pop specialities. I won't go into that detail here, although the relevant question is included as an appendix to the written version of this talk. However, here is a slide which summarises the differences. This defines 3 vocal features for 3 different voice types. Volume is absolutely clear. You can have degrees of loud, degrees of soft, or something in between. Oscillation is also self-explanatory. You can have a wide vibrato, type A, a narrow vibrato, type B, or no vibrato at all, type C. Timbre is perhaps less self-explanatory. This is controlled by the larynx position. Obviously, singers and vocal coaches know all about this, but if you are neither, some explanation may be in order. I'll give just a couple of examples. First, the female type A voice. Imagine headmistress haranguing her girls at the morning assembly. She sports a lower larynx tone, commanding but in no way beautiful or sweet. UK viewers may have seen Margaret Rutherford in the old films she made, where she would say, I won't attempt to imitate her voice, she would say, yeffert, St. Swithin's, yeffert. In the male voice, comedians often affect the low larynx timbre. The Dud and Pete sketches, you may recall, were funny in a low larynx voice. You may also remember the Monty Python sketch in the TV version, which has a cat flying across the room, and the interviewer saying to the owner, well, how do you get the cat to fly? What's the secret? And the owner replies, I'll try my low larynx voice, I fling her. So much for the voice type definitions. The results of the survey will come in a moment. Now, during the conference itself, we actually took the questionnaire approach a stage further. Before the conference, I asked John Potter, is it possible that we could get a single singer to do the same piece 3 times in 3 different styles? So he thought, well, it might be difficult, quite a challenge there. But he came up with somebody who was Pei Chen, who was one of John's postgraduate students. She bravely volunteered. And now here's a picture of Pei Chen. She has a very beautiful soprano voice. If you go to her website and download some samples, you can hear an extremely varied and interesting repertoire. She was, in fact, she took part in the musical highlight of the conference, which was the Allegri by Miserere, in a version discovered by Hugh Keat at the Vatican Library. The 9 singers are involved, including John Potter himself, Pei Chen, and other university vocal students. An absolute wonderful sound. The performance was directed by Graham O'Reilly, who directs the Ensemble Européen William Byrd. You can hear, well, unfortunately you can't, but I heard Pei Chen's beautiful unforced top C floated out without any screeching or vibrato. So back to the experiment. First, I'll play you an unbroken C on the third line of the treble clef in baroque pitch where A equals 4, 415. We start with the type A operatic. The sound then transitions into a type B early music mainstream and concludes with type C clear, smooth, sweet, chaste. Now I'll play it once again, broken down into the three separate tones. First, type A operatic. Now, type B early music mainstream. And finally, the type C clear, smooth, sweet, chaste. These were used to create the waveform charts which would be displayed in the illustration to follow. Now we'll hear Pei Chen singing Handel's famous aria, Lascia ch'io pianga. The first section will be done in type A voice, the middle section in type B, and the da capo repeat in type C, ornamented. As the music plays, you will see Pei's wave form for that particular sound. I should say at this point that I'm extremely grateful to David Howard's excellent vocal science unit, who produced the recording and the acoustic evidence. First is the type A operatic sound. As you can see from the waveform, the vibrato is almost a full tone wide. 100 cents equals a semitone. Some operatic singers have an even wider vibrato of a minor third or more. Now you'll hear the middle section of the aria in the type B early music mainstream sound. Note that the vibrato amplitude is much narrower, about a quarter tone each side of the mi, roughly a semitone from peak to trough. The best exponent of this style is Emma Kirkby. Pop singers with the style include Eva Cassidy, Katie Mellower, and the Everly Brothers. Finally, Pei Chen sings the da capo repeat with some ornamentation. There are a few notes with a very slight ornamental vibrato, which is absolutely historically informed. As Anselm Bailey said in 1771 essay, the manner of waving or vibrating on a single note with the voice, like as with the violin, especially on a semi-breve, minim and a final note, hath often a good effect. But great care must be taken to do it discreetly and without any trembling. You can debate whether she is using too much or too little. However, the waveform is Pei singing absolutely straight. It's interesting that the waveform is slightly wavering, although this can't be detected by the human ear. That is the nature of the human voice. In the next slide, I'll show the results, both those obtained from the NEMA survey questionnaires and those from the conference delegates themselves. Right, now this slide contains the voting results. You can see there are two different surveys. The blue bars are the the survey of NEMA members and early music fans, and the red bars are the delegates at the conference. We had over 100 participants in the survey, and I think there are a couple of things that really come out loud and clear. Firstly, the early music mainstream style was the most popular, but that it was very closely followed by the clear, smooth, sweet chase style, which is a bit surprising because you can't actually hear that style at all in Handel these days. The operatic style was extremely unpopular, with only really 5% of people actually voting for it. The conference, a similar profile emerged. As you can see, again, the early music mainstream was most popular, with the clear, smooth, sweet chase a close second, with only 5 delegates plumping for the operatic style. This was a bit of a surprise to me, to be honest, because a high proportion of the delegates at the conference were vocal coaches, musicologists, teachers at academies and so forth, who spend a good deal of their time teaching the one-size-fits-all operatic voice.
Right. Having said all that, you'll see that the chart has some green bars on it, shown as Greenwich, and you may be wondering what that's all about. Well, NEMA decided to do another survey, which took place at the Greenwich Early Music Festival and Exhibition from 12th to 14th of November. We had 164 respondents altogether, and each one was shown the waveform charts at figures 6 to 8, which you've already seen, and after listening to Pei Chen's single note on headphones, they were asked, which vocal sound do you prefer? Many pointed out quite correctly that the question was out of context, and that their preferences would be different depending upon what music they were listening to. However, we decided to keep the survey simple. If we had appended for Handel's music to the question, we'd probably received even fewer votes for the type A voice. But as you can see, the green bars actually show a very similar profile to the other 2 experiments.